Welcome to another episode of the Smiles Ahead podcast, powered by Burrow, Welshel, and Culp Orthodontics. I'm Dr. Burrow, and we're going to talk about the fun topic today of bad breath. And everybody should be interested in that because nobody wants it, and everybody needs to know what causes it so they can avoid it, right? It's a very, not only popular with people with orthodontic appliances like braces and Invisalign and that type of stuff. We obviously harp on that a lot, but everybody in the population should be concerned and watching to see if they have bad breath. Now, we call bad breath, it's an actual medical term. It's called halitosis, just a fancy word for it, but it means bad breath, some kind of odor coming off. So there's a couple different ways to look at this. You can have your short-term bad breath. It's usually your morning breath type of situation, or your chronic halitosis. That means it's more of a medical underlying issue. Something else is going on other than just cleaning your mouth. So with the temporary, that can be an easy fix. We all kind of get that in the morning. So if you wake up in the morning and you have that dry mouth and you kind of have that bad taste and, maybe you don't want to be going out and breathing all over everybody, that's more morning breath. That's temporary. That's more of a hygienic thing. So as long as you're waking up and you're brushing your teeth, you're flossing, using that tongue scraper or brushing your tongue, typically can take care of that. The dental joke is we brush our teeth at night to keep our teeth. We brush our teeth in the morning to keep our friends. So make sure you're doing that. You really want to have a really clean mouth when you're going to sleep because that's, 6 to 8 hours, however long you sleep, of stuff just sitting on your teeth. And then when you wake up, that bacteria that's accumulated, maybe that food that was left over in there, is going to smell a little bit and could have some bad odor. So make sure we're getting rid of that as well. Some people like to brush in the middle of the day after a lunch or something like that, and that's great. But typically we recommend twice a day, 2 minutes. So if you're doing that at night and in the morning, you're probably going to be okay as long as you're not eating garlic and onions or something that is going to give you some stank breath anyway. So we all know that food can cause it. But some of the other stuff is a little bit less obvious, having a dry mouth. So if you're dehydrated throughout the day, you can certainly get that dry mouth. What that's going to do is not have that saliva in there that's going to clear some of that bacteria and clear some of that food. And that can cause a bad odor or a bad breath. So we want to make sure that we're having good oral hygiene. We're, staying hydrated. That's a big one. And then just staying aware of, hey, do I have the bad breath or not? And typically, if it's temporary, you can get in there and get it away. So just to recap there on the temporary bad breath, if you're controlling it with good oral hygiene, the main tip here that people never get or don't get a lot is brush that tongue. So a lot of people brush their teeth and a lot of people floss, but they're staying off of that tongue. Now, the crazy thing about our tongue is every individual is different, but it has about 2,000 to 8,000 taste buds on just your tongue. That's 8,000 places where potential food and bacteria, and these taste buds are shaped crazy. They kind of look like, say, not really mushrooms, but kind of that look where it has a bunch of crevices under and a bunch of stuff for things to get stuck in. It's certainly not a smooth surface that cleans off real easy naturally. So it needs some irritation. It needs some rubbing to go ahead and get in there and get it clean. We can use tongue scrapers. They have tongue scrapers you can get off Amazon. Boom, clean it right off. If you don't have those, you don't want to go through that process. It's simple as brushing in circular motions on your tongue, flipping your tongue out, just making sure you're cleaning that up. Now, that circular motion comes from wanting to get up under those crevices and really breaking up that blockage and that bacteria that might be hiding in there. So get it clean. But that's one of the things people forget about a lot with this temporary halitosis. And they're trying to rely on mouthwash all the time. They're trying to rely on just brushing all the time. And, you can use mouthwash, and then 15 minutes later, if that tongue's still dirty and nasty, you're still going to have bad breath, and you have to go back to the well to do it. And you're just not going to understand why that mouthwash isn't working. We always say mouthwash is great. I use it. I like it. Clean it out. But it is a very secondary thing. You know, if you're getting if you're getting the flossing, the brushing, and the tongue cleaning out of the way, yes, go ahead and do that. But if you're just going to go in there and swig some mouthwash and think that's going to get you through a whole day and then get you through the next day, it might get you through a few hours. If you have good oral hygiene and it's like midday and you're like, oh man, I just need to freshen up a little bit, that's great for mouthwash. But don't use it as anything fixed where you're like, this is going to take care of it. I don't have to brush my teeth real fast. You know, in the morning, just swig that instead of brushing your teeth. Not going to work long term. So don't rely on that. And that should pretty much cover the temporary halitosis. As we all know, we've all had it. And most people know how to get rid of it. But that tongue thing is super important that we find a lot of people don't know about. So clean that tongue so you don't have stinky breath. All right. Now, the chronic halitosis can be a little bit more serious. So that's something where maybe you're having good oral hygiene, you're brushing your teeth, you're using mints all the time, but you continually have this bad taste and this bad breath coming up. First thing to look at is any kind of medication you're taking. Are you taking any antidepressants? Are you taking any antihistamines? Are you taking any, chemotherapy? Any of these things that, are somewhat taken a lot, can cause decrease in salivation. That decrease in salivation can cause you not to be able to get rid of that bacteria as quickly, wash that food away as quickly, and can certainly start causing some bad breath. So any medications, talk to your doctor about it. Usually when they prescribe something like that, they'll talk about it, especially if it's prescription. But some of the over-counter stuff like antihistamines and that type of thing, it might be something to think about. So look at that, and that can help. We always want to stay hydrated with that salivation. We talked about that earlier, but sometimes you can hydrate all you want. If you have a medication that's causing decrease in salivation, it's just going to be hard to handle without rebutting it with something else. So look at that. It can also be underlying medical conditions. So if we think about the gut is also coming up through the esophagus, through the mouth. So anything in the gut, if we're producing, we're not having good gut biome here, producing gases, maybe some GERD, some acid reflux, it's coming up. You can be brushing your teeth, clean your teeth as much as you want, and you're still going to have that odor coming up from your gut. So that could be something that you can talk to your physician about. You can talk to your dentist and orthodontist, and they can kind of help navigate where you are on that and who you need to see. But that could be something also where, you're doing everything right with the oral hygiene part, but it's something that is in your gut. It could be another issue. It could be the way you're eating. It could be your gut biome, that type of stuff. So something to think about and just narrowing it down. And last but certainly not least in our world is dental infections. So if you have a cavity, if you have an abscessed tooth, if you let something go too far, maybe some periodontal disease, that just means gum disease, some gingivitis. We all know what that is. It's when the gums are super red because you're not brushing your teeth. Well, now you have a two-hit thing there. Probably not brushing as well as you should, which means your breath probably isn't as good as it should be. And then two, now we have an infection here where we're causing more bacteria to expel bad odor. And it's just uncontrollable. So if you have an abscessed tooth, you can brush it, you can floss it. It's not going away until it gets fixed by a dental profession. So that's why it's so important to hit your 6-month cleanings and see your dentist regularly. Even if you think everything's good and you're like, hey, every time I go in there, it's just a cleaning. They always say I'm all right. I can probably skip this one. It only takes that one time where something does evolve and snowballs effects, and now you have an infection, you have chronic bad breath, you have some of these other issues going on. So that's another big thing to look at if you do have that chronic bad breath that you can't get rid of. But overall, it's pretty manageable. We just have to break it down in a couple of things. If we have good oral hygiene, we're brushing our tongue. Remember, got to stay on the tongue. We're using some mouthwash, but not as a primary, as a secondary. You're going to be in good shape. If you're doing all that and can continue to have bad breath, then it might be something you need to look at, some underlying stuff, some medications, some medical systems, some gut health, that type of thing. And another thing that people are always asking when they get their braces or their Invisalign is it going to be different? Is it going to cause me to have bad breath? And certainly with the braces, you're going to have a lot more surface area where, food and bacteria and stuff can get stuck under it. It's kind of like the tongue, right? A lot of places for that stuff to hide. And if you're not clearing it, yes, it will cause bad breath. But if you're doing everything your orthodontist tells you, if you're doing everything your dentist tells you, then having aligners or having braces should be no different on whether or not you have bad breath or not. You might have to concentrate on it a little bit more. You might have to brush 3 or 4 times a day because you have more surface area. But if you're doing the right things, you can keep that fresh breath and keep those people around you, keep those friends, right? So we want to make sure that all that's good. But that kind of wraps up bad breath. We get a lot of questions on it, obviously. There's a lot of things out there that can, quick fixes like mints and gums. And again, all that stuff is fine. Just make sure you're doing the primary stuff first, and we can keep that bad breath away. All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Smiles Ahead podcast, powered by Burrow, Welchel, and Culp Orthodontics. Be sure to leave a rating, hit that subscribe button, and if you have more questions, you can reach out to me directly at sam@bwcortho.com. That's sam@bwcortho.com. You can also visit our website, bwcortho.com, and we will be happy to answer any questions you might have.